pipe smoking. Writer Peter Tinniswood contemplates a pastime he has enjoyed all his adult life.
There are pleasures in life that, once experienced, want to be repeated. One is eating. Certainly one is smoking. I will omit the obvious one. It's like everything you do. If you drink too much water, you can get drunk. You have to do things in moderation.
Contentment and contemplation.
How often do you smoke a pipe?
It's more the case of when I don't smoke a pipe.
Chubby Oates, distinguished actor, smoking a very well-worn Meerschaum pipe there with the end bitten off. Is that something to do with your acting, Chubby?
No, that's driving the car, getting fed up with people in front. You bite the pipe and in frustration.
Is that why a pipe's good, to get rid of all the frustrations in life?
Yeah.
What do the fellows say when they see you smoking a pipe?
I don't actually smoke a pipe that often in public.
Are you ashamed of it?
Not ashamed, no. I think I'm probably more slightly embarrassed about it. I haven't overcome that yet.
So you think pipe smoking keeps relationships going, do you?
I think it may start a relationship. It's a very good talking point.
I've been a pipe smoker all my adult life. Happily, I've used all the in terms: rock, cherry, meerschaum, briar. All right, what is a briar? John Duncan, pipe entrepreneur extraordinaire, tells us.
It's a root, and the ball is...
How big is it?
It's about a foot in diameter.
About the size of a football.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Some are smaller.
Yeah.
They all come from the Mediterranean. They then cut it in the sawmills. These are cut into abouchons. It's a French word. And the abouchon is then wetted and it is dried in the natural Mediterranean sun so that the briar doesn't produce a shake.
How long does that take?
Oh, it could take something like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. What's a shake? That's interesting.
A shake, it's where the briar has shrunk and a cavity appears. Now that's what you don't want. We supply these abouchons to retailers to put in the window as window dressing. And we had one girl who had just started in the office, and she received this call from a retailer who didn't really know much about it, but had heard you could get these blocks. And she phoned up and she said, "I'm phoning for an abortion." But the word is abouchon.
No, I'm holding a pipe in my hand now. I mean,
That's what we call a rustic pipe. That is actually, it's a sandblasted pipe.
Yes.
That has been blasted by a sandblasting process to give you that effect. So you've basically got a smooth pipe or a sandblasted pipe.
Yeah. So the guy makes the pipe. When does the stem come along into it?
There are two ways of doing the stem. The stem is usually, on good pipes, it's made of vulcanite, which is a rubber compound.
What's that stem that I got now?
That's a vulcanite,
Yeah.
yes, and that's got a hand-finished crescent lip. That is a handmade mouthpiece. That's been cut from a piece of vulcanite or ebonite rod.
So it's been why I spent a fortune on it.
That's right, yes. It's been hand-filed, that has.
Now, I know that there's a great tradition in shapes of briars, isn't there?
Yes.
How many different shapes are there, and how long have they been in existence?
Oh, hundreds. I mean, we're talking now, the trade started in the late 1800s. The basic shape is a billiard. Everyone knows the shape of a pipe. The straight pipe is a billiard.
Yeah.
Although the bent ones are rapidly gaining in popularity. And you've got so many different shapes. You've got bull caps, you've got apples, you've got bulldogs, prints, probably something like 200 to 300 different shapes.
What's the most expensive pipe you've ever had in your possession?
Sold at about £350. It was a complete one-off. When you turn a particular shape of a pipe, you probably turn something like 120 dozen at a time. And you will get some which have a straight grain. That means that the grain runs vertically up the sides of the bowl. And on the top and on
That's
the
very desirable, is it?
Oh yes, it's a rarity. On the top and the bottom you have what they call a bird's eye grain, which is the end grain, like little pinpoints. But these pipes do, by the nature of what they're made of, and the fact that they come from underground, have little grub holes in them. and the grub holes are filled. Now, if you get a straight grain without fillings, that is a complete rarity, and you will occasionally get one in a complete turning. But the particular one we had was a beautiful, large, bent, straight grain, perfect pipe.
I'm slavering at the mouth at the thought of it.
I'm sorry it's gone.
I couldn't afford it anyway. How do you choose a pipe?
I like a bent pipe, one which has got a decent sized bowl to it.
Why? Why a decent sized bowl? Because
I like it to last.
Well, I know some people who smoke little bowl like a thimble, don't they?
Yes.
And you see them coughing and spluttering.
To me, those things are produced as dust. And frankly, you're spending more time refilling the thing. Now, with a larger bowl, you can have a very pleasant and contented, lengthy smoke.
What was your first pipe? Do you remember it?
Yes, it was a long church warden's pipe, which I actually smoked because I liked the look of it. I thought it was very elegant, and just went from there. I enjoyed it, so I carried on.
You know when you see old movies and you see these guys, the actors smoking a pipe, and you know bloody well they don't know how to do it. Does that infuriate you? They clasp it in their teeth, and you know perfectly well they don't know how to smoke it.
That's right. I've seen them do that. In fact, I was in a play at the Whitehall Theatre, and one of the actors in there had to smoke a pipe for an audition for a commercial. He came to me, and I found him a pipe, and I found him a very, very mild tobacco, and he found it quite pleasant. He managed to do it for a first-time smoker, and got the job.
How much do you smoke a week? How much tobacco do you smoke a week?
I would think now, roughly, being retired, about 2 to 3 ounces a week.
That's an incredible amount, isn't it?
Not really, no. I mean, if you consider that an ounce of tobacco will give you approximately 8 to 10 fills of a pipe, and each pipe lasts at least 40 to 50 minutes, you're getting a very cheap smoke.
There are other sorts of wood, aren't they, used in, or other sorts of material used in pipe making?
Yes, there's olive wood, which comes from Malta. It's a heavier wood. That's the only problem with it, and it's just a heavier pipe to hold, but they smoke fine. You have corn cobs, which are the American corn on the cob. That is more of a holiday pipe, of a fun pipe, although in America, in the particular areas where they come from, they regularly smoke them. Of course, obviously cheaper pipes for them. There's also meerschaum.
What is meerschaum?
Meerschaum, it's sea foam. It actually means sea foam, and it's mined underground near the sea. It's like a chalk or a clay, and it's of a white substance. And they wet it, and they then carve it by hand with small knives, and the actual detail is absolutely wonderful. We have one there, which is a nude lady, and it is the most comfortable pipe to hold. I'm not going to tell you where your thumb goes, but
Don't tell me where the stem goes either.
there's a big smile on your face when you're smoking it.
Do they smoke well? Meerschaum pipes, quite apart from nude ladies. Do meerschaum pipes smoke well?
Yes, it's a sweet smoke. Again, you have to break them in. You have to let the carbon form. But the fun of smoking a meerschaum pipe, particularly the Turkish, which is white to start off with, is to actually smoke the pipe all the way through. Don't half fill it. After a while, you'll find that the pipe turns into a beautiful golden colour, and that's the idea. You've got to make the whole of the bowl into this rich golden colour.
What a lovely occupation, I find. I can't think of anything nicer than doing that. What about cherry wood pipes? I seem to remember my granddad smoking an old cherry wood pipe. A rock pipe, was it called?
Yes, that was the French rock factory, who are no longer there. You got the actual taste of the cherry among the tobacco taste.
I remember
as well.
I smoked one and found it absolutely delightful, but the trouble was that the tobacco burnt too quickly in it.
Did it? Did it?
Mm.
I can't tell you why that should happen, really. Perhaps you're a bit impatient at the time.
Probably was. I was only a young man. I hadn't learned the virtues of patience, which I've got now.
The job basically was to promote pipe smoking throughout the country, not only for men, but for women, and this was the novelty of it all.
And why did they choose girls to do this? I mean, you'd have thought if you're going to promote pipe smoking, you'd choose elderly gentlemen like me, you know.
Why fella? Why not? Why not?
What did you wear?
Very little.
We wore minis when they first came into fashion.
The true minis. In fact, those minis were so mini, they were part of our uniform, that we were even provided with underwear to match because it showed.
And the guys saw that and wanted to smoke a pipe. Is that the immediate thing they wanted to do? I mean, I wouldn't have thought that. You see attractive ladies in great miniskirts.
No, they saw us and hopefully they wanted to talk to us, but we talked about what we wanted to talk about, which was the tobacco, and not what they may have wanted to talk about, you see. The bulk of the work came from pubs and clubs, like tennis clubs or sporting clubs where people, I know maybe sport and smoking didn't go together, but it was where we would be sure to get
Social scene.
Exactly, a social scene with a lot of people who may have been sitting down for a little while.
House of Commons.
Houses of Parliament, we did a promotion there. It's only when you look back and you think, yes, I met him and I met Harold Wilson and all the members of Parliament, and actually we had lovely letters from Harold Wilson because we gave him, he was a pipe smoker, of course, so we supplied him and gave him pipes at the House of Commons.
Do you realise you could have ended up being Minister of Health?
Or something like that.
All right, so you walk through the door of that pub. What's the first thing that happened?
They're gobsmacked.
Yeah. We would normally, actually, they would be expecting us in most places because part of the campaign was to actually advertise that we would be there on a certain day or a certain night. So it wasn't a complete surprise. But I can say we were always well received.
Well, I'm sure you were. Were you fighting off fumbling hands and everything?
No. I think we were a bit of karate somewhere, soon put them in their place.
Actually, the simplest thing was we had lighters, which not only burnt tobacco if necessary.
Talking about better smokes, tell us something about the various sorts of tobacco, because of course that's absolutely crucial to the whole business, isn't it?
It is, and this is what can make or break a pipe smoker. If he gets the wrong tobacco to start off with, which burns his tongue, and he doesn't allow his pipe to be broken in, then it could put him off. You have to start with a mellow type of tobacco, and this doesn't mean a light-coloured tobacco. The light-coloured tobaccos generally burn quicker and are harsher. If you go for a dark tobacco, medium dark tobacco, and again I'm not talking about the thick twists because they are fairly strong. They're so strong that you could probably tar your roof if you had a leak with those. But the dark brown tobaccos, and particularly the loose American tobaccos, I keep coming back onto these because they are moist and they have flavourings and they will attract the pipe smoker.
Well, I smoke a Dutch tobacco. I mean, I'll show it you now. And is that what you're talking about? I'm opening it up now.
That's a similar one, although that's on the light side and it's more of a coarse shred on it. The flakes are the long, stringy pieces of tobacco which you then rub, as opposed to the ready rub which have already been rubbed.
That's right, and then you'd shake somebody's hand and leave them bits of tobacco all over.
That's right, yes.
I remember my grandfather used to have was it sort of a plug tobacco, and he used to carve it off with his penknife.
Yes, well, that's the twist. The twists are made in Kendal in the UK. Indeed, they're used for chewing as well. Anyone working in iron foundries where it's very hot, they tend to chew the tobacco just to keep their mouths moist.
Do people still buy chewing tobacco?
Yes, they do. But again, not as popular because there aren't as many foundries around. But yes, in the certain areas, particularly in the northeast, they will chew tobaccos just as sailors used to chew tobacco.
So they're still spittoon manufacturers, are they?
I don't know about that.
One of the most redolent sounds in the world.
You don't see many in the pubs these days,
No,
do you?
no.
The idea is that 6 or 7 competitors are seated around a table, and each table there is a table steward who doesn't take part but controls the activities of the members on that particular table. They are given a sealed sachet of tobacco, or a measured quantity in a sealed packet. They have 5 minutes to light the pipe. At the end of that 5 minutes, again under a formal condition, you are given 2 matches and an empty box. The table steward will make sure that if a competitor's match breaks or doesn't ignite, he will provide him with a further match. But you have 2 matches and 2 minutes to light the pipe. Once the pipe is lit, and once the 2-minute lighting up period has expired, nobody is allowed to reignite. They can use a tamper, but they're not allowed to what we call go gardening, i.e. that the metal spike on a pipe smoker's knife is not allowed to be inserted into the bowl of the pipe if you have a partial blockage. If you have a blockage, then that's hard luck. You've either got to try and clear it by puffing extra hard or blowing down.
Wouldn't some people, though, you're describing this to me, which I understand as a pipe smoker, but wouldn't somebody think you're a load of raving loonies doing this?
They can think what they like. A pipe smoker is immune to jeers, catcalls, ridicule. He's in his own complete world. If people think we're raving loonies, well, that's freedom of speech. They're entitled to think that.
One of the great things about pipe smoking is all the accoutrements that go with it. You know, the lovely, mellow tobacco pouch and thing I got in my hand, which I call my smoker's compendium, which I use for digging out the pipe and reaming it and generally playing around with it. John has got an absolutely beautiful instrument in his hand. Tell us about that, John.
What I have here is a little instrument that was invented by my grandfather, and it's called the smoker's friend. It doesn't have a knife blade on it, but it has 3 prongs on it, one of which is for cleaning inside the shank of the pipe. One slimmer one is for cleaning the mouthpiece. The other one has a ground edge, which is for taking away some of the excess carbon, because you shouldn't let too much carbon form on the pipe. If you do that and you then let the pipe cool for any amount of time, the briar will contract onto the carbon, which is harder than the briar, and the briar bowl will split.
How long will a good pipe last?
Good pipe will last you a complete lifetime if you look after it. One of the things to do is when you finish smoking it is to leave a pipe cleaner inside it. That will take away any of the moisture. On the end of this particular smoker's friend as well is a little tamper for tamping the tobacco down.
I like doing it with my thumb.
That's the one thing you notice about old pipe smokers. They've all got black thumbs.
That's right.
Yes.
Or big calluses on them. Yeah,
That's correct.
blisters. Yes, yes. Have you known any women pipe smokers?
Yes, and in particular one who used to have a shop in Chester and who still smokes, but when she did have the shop, she smoked it regularly in the shop, and the passing public didn't even notice she was smoking a pipe. She was that comfortable with it.
We held a convention in the Royal Albert Hall for lady pipe smokers during the course of this operation, and something in the region of 500 women turned up who were
Why would anyone want a lady to smoke a pipe? I mean, what reason would you give for that?
If you think about it, back in the late 60s, a lot of people used to use cigarette holders. The elegance of the pipe really made it very similar to actually just having a cigarette, visually having a cigarette in a cigarette holder, just that you had the tobacco in the bowl of the pipe.
I remember the agonies of first starting smoking a pipe, you know, getting your tongue burnt and the roof of your mouth burning and sort of spurts of tobacco juice coming out of your ear and everything. Did it ever strike you as being a rather comic way of entertaining yourself and amusing yourself by doing what's essentially a pretty disgusting sort of performance?
I never saw it as a disgusting performance. It's very simple. I mean, we simply instead put the tobacco in the palm of your hands, turn the pipe over it, twiddle it round, and turn your hand over the top of the pipe. Hence, your pipe is filled. You just simply press it down.
Sounds incredibly sensuous to me.
Well, maybe this is why we had so many converts. Who knows? And then you simply sucked on the pipe, little puff here and there, little light now and again, and I mean it really adds to a gentleman's
sounds even more
attractiveness, doesn't it? I mean, a man with a pipe is a man you turn around and look at twice, isn't it?
Now then, there's one period in our social life when masculinity was a guy smoking a bulldog pipe clenched firmly in his teeth, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And that was the ultimate, wasn't it? But it isn't now, is it?
Now, I'm a little bit out of touch. Being an absolute non-smoker, I don't know. I don't know whether a man smoked a pipe or not would make any difference, but then it depends on what age group you're looking at and who has to do the cleaning up after it.
Now you see, now you're approaching a dangerous ground, which is what most wives of
Absolutely.
pipe smokers say. The bugger burns holes in his cardigan, and where he's sitting, there are little shreds of tobacco all over the carpet, and I come in of a morning and...
Yes, but, sorry to interrupt, but that is the very thing that probably attracted her to him initially.
A lot of pipe smokers keep the pipe in their mouth just with even when it's not lit, so it probably keeps the husband quite quiet, I would have thought.
But were you turned on by a guy who smoked a pipe?
Yes. He wasn't bad looking, was he, Maria?
Well, I tried to get my husband to smoke a pipe, and he did try, but I'm afraid he's a cigar smoker now. He was a cigarette smoker at the time, but I didn't convert him. But
Why?
He's not the type.
Why did he not smoke a pipe?
He is a sportsman, and I just don't think he had the time. And I keep him busy doing other things as well.
Well, of course.
Is it quite sexy to smoke a pipe?
I don't think so. I think more women should smoke pipes to get over the stigma that's obviously attached to it. You know, it's a very macho thing to do. It's like some women who smoke cigars. Why not try it?
Do you like men who smoke pipes?
I like the smell of pipe smoke. I don't necessarily like men who smoke pipes. You see what I mean? I don't think, oh, there's a nice man because he's smoking a pipe.
Don't you think men might say, well, that doesn't attract me seeing a woman smoke a pipe then?
They may well do that, but that doesn't, I don't really care, to be honest.
There is a decline. There are less people smoking pipes, but the people that are smoking pipes have more pipes per head.
What about ages, though? I mean, is it an occupation of more mature elderly men?
Generally, you find that the 20-year-olds don't smoke pipes. If they're on cigarettes or small cigars, they sometimes try it at the late 20s, 30-year-old age. And hopefully, if we then give them the right advice and the right pipe, they will stay on it, because a pipe is far better for them. Much more enjoyable. It's a pastime, it is not a habit.
And there was at one time, wasn't there, when it was considered very manly to have a bulldog pipe clenched between your lips, wearing a Harris tweed sports jacket and cavalry twill trousers,
That's right.
wasn't it? That was the vision of the ultimate manliness, wasn't it?
That was the Bertie Wooster image.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, we're not in the 1920s now.
How long have you been smoking a pipe?
Ever since I was 19.
Why did you start?
I used to smoke cigarettes to a reasonable level of those days, between 60 and 80 a day.
Reasonable, he says. Yes, go on.
But unfortunately, the price went up with a budget increase, and I found it was a little bit too expensive.
You were in the army then, weren't you?
I was in the army, and obviously one didn't earn very much, being national serviceman. And when they went to 3 and sixpence in old money for 20, it was a bit too much. So I immediately took up smoking a pipe.
Very young, when I was at school, I started smoking a pipe. There was a kid in our class in Birmingham. His old man had a pub, and he used to get a load of cigarettes for the other kids in the class. And being a little fat man, I could never get there fast enough to get me rations, so I asked him if his old man flogged tobacco. So I took up a pipe then.
People object to pipe smokers and pipe smoking. What do you find is the strongest objection you get?
To be truthful, there aren't many that object to pipe smoking. The problem with pipe smoking is that it does create a lot of smoke, more than a cigarette, although the smell is very much better. We have one lady, she actually changed her husband's tobacco. He didn't change it, she changed it for him, and this particular one was a black cherry flavour. And she absolutely loves it. She's never bought an air freshener since, and she thinks it's wonderful around the house.
So he doesn't need to smoke his Erwick anymore?
Not at all, no air fresheners. But there aren't a lot that object unless you're in a closed, confined atmosphere. And my thoughts on that are that there's nothing nicer than finishing a meal in a restaurant with a coffee and a brandy and your pipe. And if it does upset other people, I maintain that the problem is not with yourself, but with the air conditioning system in the restaurant. I am the vice chairman of the Pipe Smokers Council, who promote pipes, and the chairman is Lawrence Marks, the writer.
Oh, yes. Marks and Graham.
That's right, Lawrence Marks and Maurice Graham. When he travels in a taxi in London, some taxis will allow them to smoke and some won't. And what he says is, "May I puff my pipe?" And he has never had an objection from a taxi driver since.
I have. When I go into a taxi in London, the first thing as I say is, "Do you mind if I smoke my pipe, Gov?" Some say no, some say yes, some say, "Oh, I don't mind if you open the window," you know. But I've accepted that as part of the way of life now. Are you like me? You get a real pleasure out of the whole process of filling a pipe and lighting it.
Oh, that's it. It's pleasure not only for oneself, but it's also quite a pleasure to watch other people's reactions. Particularly these days when so many people have become so bigoted about smoking.
We're getting outcasts, aren't we, you and I?
Oh, totally, totally.
Do you feel resentful about that?
Yes.
How do you show it?
By suggesting when people are very dogmatic, perhaps if we were all to give up smoking, they may not like to pay an extra 10p on their income tax to compensate the exchequer.
But if somebody says to you it's a really disgusting, revolting habit,
So is picking your nose.
I
You don't do it in public.
Why, I adore picking my nose. It's one of the great delights in life.
Everybody has their own viewpoint and their own outlook on life. Some people will tell you that cucumber sandwiches are far superior to strawberry jam sandwiches. Others will swear by corned beef sandwiches. Now, they're each in their own way quite correct. They enjoy what they do or what they eat in this particular case. And you'd find that the average pipe smoker is normally a very decent fellow. I used to smoke a pipe when smoking was permitted on the trains, but if the train or the compartment got crowded, I would put my pipe out. And you will find that most people, given the proper upbringing and a sense of consideration for the other fellow, will do this.
Over the whole course of your life, pipe smoking, how many holes have you burnt in your cardigan?
I've had a marvellous burnout, actually, not only cardigan, but shirt, because I remember knocking my pipe out while I was driving along in the car and tucked my pipe in the inside pocket of my jacket. And that burnt through the lining into my cardigan and through my shirt. And it was only when it was going through the shirt I realised that the pipe was still alive. But that is one only instance.
You've got a story about Bartlett Mullins, haven't you, Chubby? Tell me about that.
Smashing old actor. Donkeys years ago, I was doing a Dixon at Dock Green, and he noticed me smoking a pipe in the canteen at the Beeb, and we talked about pipe smoking. And I noticed he was smoking on the set in the studio. I thought, you can't do that. I can't smoke in the studio. And he said, "Oh, it's an old tip," he said. He said, "Worth remembering this. I always get the pipe written into the character, and then if anybody stops me smoking on the set, I've got to keep it going, because I might be on in a minute."
You've solved in an instant my future career as a writer. Thank you very much indeed, Chubby. It strikes me sort of it's an odd, the whole thing is the paraphernalia about it and everything, the rituals that go into it, for something, an end product, which ultimately is not going to do you much good, is it?
You set fire to it in the end, don't you?
Well, you set fire to your own lungs, maybe.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sucking and puffing away at this pipe, and I know that if I weren't doing it, I'd probably be healthier. So doesn't it, there's the irony in all that wonderful paraphernalia and traditions for an end product which isn't going to do you much good at the end.
Pipe smokers are not nervous, irritable people. They
What do you
are
mean?
Placid, with one exception. They're placid sort of people who pass the time of day with you. I mean, I spend a little time in this shop, and I talk to pipe smokers, and they're the most wonderful people in the world, and they're just nice to be with. But always remember Harold Wilson when he sat across the table from Khrushchev, and Khrushchev made a very pertinent question, and it was an embarrassing moment, and Harold Wilson just stopped, filled his pipe, cleaned it, lit it, and by the time he'd actually started smoking, the moment had passed. And he slowed himself down, and that is the beauty of pipe smoking.
Talking to Peter Tinniswood about pipe smoking were John Duncan, Maria Moore, Sandy Powell, Lynne Street, Peter Wiseman, Chubby Oates, and Ernest Carton. The producer at Pebble Mill was Graham Batty. This is Radio 4.